Miller, thank you so much. I think, however, if you were to change all the names of my last name from that sheet he was reading and move it over to Bill Gates, I think you'd have the right person in mind. Because when this lecture was established by my sister with the really wonderful support of Mr. and Mrs. Hardwick, what occurred to me was, and that was without my knowledge at first, was that I didn't just grow up like a flower and get into what I felt was the most important thing in life. That came to me from Blair when I was here for my 4 years. And I think you have to remember that because it's the same faculty in quality, the same student body in quality, bigger, I'd like to say, and perhaps smarter than the rest of us, but it's a great, unique place to take with you what I think is the most significant part of one's life, and that is to recognize that ethics and responsibility isn't just words. It's how you become successful and satisfied with your life. I think that's the important thing. And I don't need to tell you how I feel about 9/11. We live about 30 miles from the city, about 500 feet elevation, and for years my wife and I and family were staring at the upper 30 stories of the Trade Center. And when 9/11 happened, for weeks, if not months, all we saw was smoke in the sky. It was a terrible time. And if there is one more quality that an ethical person has, it's courage. And that's what you're going to hear tonight. Bill, thank you,
I want to thank Dr. Miller, and I want to thank Blair Academy for having me. It's great to be here. The morning of 9/11, I was watching television, and I kept seeing this plane hit the towers, and I said, this ain't funny. I really didn't believe a plane hit it. Then I realized that my son was on his way over there, and after the second plane hit, I knew it wasn't an accident, and I got my turnout gear, and I headed to the 8th Division, which is down near the ferry on Staten Island, and I was lucky enough to get the ferry across. I got over there about 12 o'clock, looking for my son. But that morning, just about 9 o'clock, my godson called me, Neil Levy. He was in Engine 217s in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and he told me that they were relocating over there, and he had brought in coffee and donuts in the morning, and he said that we thought we'd be there to see all the pretty girls, never thinking that it was going to be such a devastating day. So I told Neil to be careful, be careful. I didn't think of Neil until 1 a.m. in the morning when we were on our way back, that he never made it. But I found my son over there. He was all right. And I was in Ladder Company 3 for 12 years, and that's where my son was. We lost 13 young guys that day. Brothers. They were family, married men with children. That particular firehouse I worked out of lost fathers, and they left 18 children fatherless, you know. But anyway, during that day, I worked over there. The wind, especially when it got to be around 7 or 8 at night, was fierce, with later on bits of glass and asbestos, and I had a paper mask on, you know. Well, I learned a little bit about that. We weren't prepared. But anyway, these pictures that I'm going to show you now, I'm going to go through them. I think my daughter Erin and Dr. Miller put them together up here, and I'm thinking that this is the first time I'm going to see them like this. I haven't seen them in 11 years, but nobody's really seen these pictures. I come from a family of not only firefighters, but cops. Two of my brothers were cops, and that's my brother to the right there. A disturbed young man tried to jump off the... This is a wild picture. They pinned this guy up there, and they wound up rescuing him. But that's my brother Bobby, and like I say, one of the most decorated police officers in the New York City Police Department. This is like a 14-story building. That's the captain leaning over the top of Patty Brown. This guy's a legend. But you can't see it, but 2 floors below, there's people hanging out the windows. And they rappelled down and removed them, and it was just a satisfactory, great rescue. That's me in Engine 156, going back to 1990. I don't know if you can see the smoke in the background, but that's we're coming over on the ferry. That's when both towers were hit, and it was evident that this wasn't an accident. These are some of the people, unfortunate, the poor souls that took their lives. This is my son John, who was in Ladder 3, who I went over that day. He called me that night when we were on our way home from the site, and he told me that he was crying when he said it, that Neil, he was like our cousin, he was my godson. He goes, "Dad, Neil's gone, he's gone." And Neil, they found 3 weeks later impaled on pry bar, about 40 feet below, but they couldn't get him out because of the shifting of the beams, and they were worried about the rescuers being crushed. This is a month or so later. I went down there to help out on several occasions, but what the firemen, the police, the sanitation men, and the construction men did was just absolutely amazing. This is a fella here I just recognized for the first time. His name is Steve Finley. His father used to play for the New York Knicks many years ago. But we were really unprepared. We had paper masks, and it wasn't enough. A lot of guys are sick now from all the agencies. That's my son John now. He realized, you see they're all clapping there. They clapped them because they found another body, which was amazing because there's still, I think there's 1,600 people that have been identified, and all the rest have either been vaporized or they're still sifted through to find bones to get some DNA to identify them. But I think my son John, knowing my son John, he's realizing that they're finding nobody, they're all gone. And I think his face says it all. These are pictures for the first time. Nobody's ever seen these. There's Ladder Company 3. That's where I worked and my son worked. And we lost, like I say, 13 men that day. This particular truck now is in the museum over at the World Trade Center. They showed it about a month ago. They had it standing up and lowered it into the museum. A lot of people forget that there was a 47-story building beside the 110-story World Trade Center. The 47-story building also collapsed with 20,000 gallons of heating fuel oil. When I talked about coming from a family of cops and firemen, here's my brother Bobby. He was on the crown of the Statue of Liberty. That's his son, Robbie, on the right, who's a police lieutenant, and his son Stevens. They were down there for days, and he was a narcotics detective. It was a devastating time for this country, but you can see the workers that stepped up from just about all over the world, not only the United States. In our firehouse, they came from Germany and from France, and they did the chores around the firehouse to keep it going. There's a lot of that's the patch of my company. That's the first time I'm seeing that. Jim's got one. This is the Firehouse Ladder Company 3. These are the men they lost that day. Almost 7 or 8 of them men I had trained as probationary firemen in Ladder 3. They walked through the door, and they all had 8 or 10 years on at the time. Just amazing. The captain of the company is Patty Brown. He was a Silver Star in Vietnam. He told Giuliani off. He's just a tough guy. He was a boxer. Jeff Giordano over here, he was my probie. I'm a representative for the Firefighters Burn Center. In essence, I'm a volunteer. And we raise close to $1 million every year. And we have a burn center at the Cornell Wild Medical Center. And we have 45 beds. We can handle almost 100 burn patients. We have 2 hyperbaric chambers. We have a skin bank. We have a children's room. When children get burned, you never see them in the paper. It happens that night or on a vacation or something. You see them, they just don't smile until they get better. But when you hear at our annual awards dinner, when you hear them say 80,000 for the skin bank, 125,000 for the children's room, I mean, it's just amazing. It makes it all worthwhile. I have a saying I tell my kids every time they go to school. This is my daughter Erin right here. I say, always be a giver and make someone. And she says that. I say it every morning they come at it when they go into school. That's our philosophy. All right. In Ladder 3, we were on East 13th Street, and we're strategically placed throughout the city so that every area is covered. Well, there was a lieutenant, and he was there with his company that morning, and days later they survived, but he wrote something, and I want to read it, and bear with me. His name is Warren Smith, and this is his letter. To all, I really don't know how to begin this letter, but I will try. First, let me start by saying I love you all. I know you guys know that. He's talking about the members of the firehouse. But before Tuesday, most of us probably didn't say it enough. That has changed. Never again will I only shake a person's hand when greeting them. They will get a hug, whether they want one or not. Second, there are very few words to describe, explain, or even fathom what other initial responders and I witnessed throughout that fateful day, but I will try. Ladder Company 9 responded on the 5th alarm shortly after 0900 hours. While responding, there were conflicting reports on the radio that in addition to Tower 1, Tower 2 was hit. As we entered the Tower 1, dodging debris and bodies, as we did, we were still unsure of all the facts. Were these buildings hit by accident? Was debris from one tower causing damage to the other? We simply didn't know. The direction of our response did not give us a good view of either impact. I don't believe any of us thought for one moment that this was an intentional act. Even at the scene, it was incomprehensible that a fellow human being would want to inflict such destruction on civilians of a country at peace. As I am realizing as each day go by, these cowards are not fellow human beings we are talking about. As we made our way into the lobby, you could sense you were about to embark on a mission that was unimaginable. As it turned out, my thoughts didn't even come close. After we stood fast for a minute or two, we were ordered to use stairway B and make our way up. No elevators were in operation. There's 110 stories. We were given no specific orders or instruction at this time. No floor, no specific job, no chief to report to, nothing. It was then that I realized how chaotic and desperate our situation was. As we worked our way up, we did our best to calm the evacuees, asking them to stay to the right, at the same time letting them know they were out of harm's way or would be shortly, due to the fact that there were thousands of civilians on the same stairs as us. Our ascent was very slow, maybe 3 floors per minute in the early going. That soon became even slower. As we got higher into the building, we heard numerous urgents and maydays from firefighters with chest pains, in need of oxygen or worse. I knew these firefighters were understandably trying to run up the stairs in full gear. Full gear can weigh as much as 70 pounds. Your helmet is 5 pounds. I told my members to pace themselves, and then you got to stop. Then you got to fight the fire. I don't want to be useless when we arrived at our destination, still not knowing where that was. On the way up, we met with an FBI agent who informed me that these planes were intentionally crashing into the towers and that there were still planes in the air unaccounted for. We were incredulous. At this point, we stopped at the 31st floor to gather ourselves. A couple of my members were a few floors below and not doing very well. It was here that we met up with Engine 33. There were also other units and a battalion chief at the other end of the floor. We still had electricity and no smoke condition, but we were hearing reports of jet fuel on the upper floors. I made my way to the chief for orders. Before I got to the chief to inform him of what the FBI agent had told me, our building was hit. Or so I thought. As I found out later, it was actually Tower 2 collapsing. It shook our building like a rag doll. We all dove into the nearest stairwell. The stairwell is all concrete and metal. It's the safest place, and it's usually, some of them are pressurized to keep smoke out. Once it stopped shaking, I found myself next to the chief. I asked him, "What the hell are we doing now, chief?" He said, "I don't know, but I'll find out." So I stayed with him, waiting for an order of what to do next. Probably in the next 20 or 30 seconds, he received the order to evacuate. I passed the order on. We kept our masks and some tools, told the engine company to drop their rolls up. And just to give you an idea, a 50-foot length of hole weighs about 70 pounds, and a gallon of water is 8 pounds. That would be 400 pounds or more just for that hose. So when we need manpower, we need manpower to move a hose. Sometimes we have to stretch it up 6, 8, 10 flights of stairs. Anything beyond that, you have standpipes. And you can get 3 floors below the standpipe because that's active with water. He told the Indians to drop their roll-ups and begin an orderly descent. We picked up firefighters unaware of the order to evacuate on the way down. As we got lower, we lost electricity and things started to slow down, eventually bringing us to a halt at approximately the 11th floor. I found myself on a landing by the door to this floor. At this point, there was no panic, just a determination to get out and regroup. It was then that a firefighter tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Follow me. To the stairs over here are clear." I turned to my members and said, Engine Company 33 and other companies, and yelled to them to follow me because the other stairs were open. Many firefighters did. As dark as it was impossible to tell how many followed. At this point in the operation, many of us thought we were being hit by numerous planes and still had no knowledge of Tower 2's total collapse. I was thinking we'll all get down, regardless of which staircase we take, and regroup outside the building. As we got closer to the lobby, our stairs also became bogged down with firefighters. Again, there was no panic, and we eventually made it down to the lobby. As we stepped into the lobby, I was trying to make sense of all the damage. Something wasn't right. I now felt we had to get away from the building. This was reinforced by a battalion chief directly outside of Tower 1. He was frantically waving everyone north of the towers. It was here that I found Bert Springstead and the wave of firefighters evacuating the building. We wanted to wait for everyone from our company, but we had no way of knowing if they were in front or behind of us. The chief screamed at us to get away from the building and head north. At this point, he was still the only one of us who knew that Tower 2 had totally collapsed. We tried to contact Engine 33 and Ladder 9 via radio, but we had no luck. As we headed up the West Side Highway, we saw Mike Wernick and Mike McGuire sitting exhausted and dazed on the highway medium. Even though we were probably 3 or 4 blocks from the tower, already something told me we weren't far enough away. I told the men to keep moving. In the next 20 or 30 seconds, we heard a roar. We began to run. As we ran, I turned to see what it was. I saw a mountain of dust, rubble, and debris chasing after us. At this point, you had numerous choices. Dive into a car, or realize it would catch us no matter what we did. I figured my best choice was to keep my mask, pick a path, and run. Once it caught me, it was utter darkness for some time. I eventually reached light. Almost immediately, I again hooked up with Bert. We tried reaching our other members. We contacted Mike McGuire, Mike Wernick, and Don Casey, either visually or via radio. Something I didn't realize at the time, but which struck me much later, the radios were eerily silent. I mean, it was investigated. We had the worst radios. I mean, you've got other countries in Europe, their equipment is just magnificent, and it's all about money. Mike Wernick and Don Casey, myself and a probie from Engine 14, who had lost his members, continued north, looking for a command post or staging area to report to. As we discovered much later, there was no one readily available to man one. We kept trying to contact Engine 33 or Ladder 9 or anyone to no avail. We were covered head to toe in debris. People were giving us water and cleaning us off. We were taken into a small warehouse where they helped us clean out our eyes. They also allowed us to call our families, who we knew were witnesses this on TV. Once we allayed their fears, we decided to head for a firehouse. Even at this point, we believed that it was just a matter of time before we hooked up with our members. We made our way to Ladder 8, that's on Varick Street in Lowman, for information. I wanted to get any information I could that would enable us to find the rest of our men. It was here I discovered how complete the devastation was. We heard there was a staging area at Ladder 20, so we headed there to await any word. I sent up Bert to Ladder 9's quarters to see if anyone had made their way there. Eventually, I went back to ladder line as well to await word on our brothers. I will close on a more personal note. For those of us who survived, there are no words to describe the feelings and thoughts we had once we realized the enormity of this unprecedented attack on our society, and will always have none. Every day I pray for a miracle. Every day I think about what I could do to help prevent this from ever happening to our job and city again. Every day I think about what I can do to help us get through this day in any way I can. I plan to love everyone, hug everyone I love, any chance I get to try to do something each day to make a difference in someone's life. I love you all. There was Warren Smith. He wrote this, and this is the second time I read this, but I wasn't there when the towers come down, but I was there afterwards. Just a couple of notes I have. I love to read, and my dad used to tell me, if you love to read, you'll never be lonely. I'm not saying I'm lonely, but I have a great wife and great daughters. And Landy and I have 7 children we raised. But I like to cut out articles, and one of the things I cut out was by the novelist Kurt Vonnegut, and he paraphrased this, and he said, the greatest symbol of man's humanity to man is a fire truck. Think about it. The other thing, you guys have your whole life in front of you. I envy you. As you go through life, remember, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Love every day, help people. I say sometimes society can be broke down into givers and takers. I didn't become a fireman to get rich. I loved helping people. I told Dr. Miller earlier, when I was a young boy, 8 or 9, my brother got sick, and I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for him. And my dad and my brother told him it made him better. And ever since then, I've been making peanut and jelly for everyone, to try to help everyone, to make the world better. The other thing is, about 18 years ago, I was asked to write an article about why become a firefighter. And I thought it would be easy, but it wasn't for me. Jimmy Boyle was the president of the UFOA, and he called me up and asked me to do this. So bear with me. I just want to read this of why firefighters, to me, are the greatest symbol of like Kurt Vonnegut said, it's a fire truck. But anyway, here we go. You only come this way once in life. Firefighters know this, and they make the most of it. Choosing to become a firefighter can only be described as embarking on a great adventure. But why become a firefighter in the first place? Who in their right mind will want to be exposed to these kinds of extreme conditions? Performing an aerial ladder, tower ladder, or rope rescue, several stories above the ground. The ladder swaying, making it difficult to perform. Knowing the rope will hold you, hoping it will hold 2 people. Inhaling dangerous smoke, sometimes containing polyvinyl chloride, asbestos, carbon monoxide, or other chemicals that are harmful and whose effects are cumulative. Crawling down a long, dark, smoky hallway with a charged handline, facing intense heat at shoulder height, not being able to see because of the heat and smoke. Advancing the hose line with 60 pounds of pressure per square inch at the nozzle. Trying to make it to that apartment or rear bedroom when someone may be trapped. Knowing the seconds and minutes that count. Racing up to 6 or 7 flights of stairs to the fly floor, wearing bunker gear and carrying 50 or 60 pounds of equipment. faced an exhaustion, heat stroke, even death. I have given you reasons not to become a firefighter. Now let me tell you why you should. First of all, it's one of the best jobs in the world. I have over 33 years of experience as a firefighter. I've responded to almost 27,000 alarms, all of them on the line with the men and women of the greatest fire department in the world. There is no doubt that they are the most intelligent, kind, honest, caring, generous, talented, and physically fit people. When I was a young man, I was working for the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, decoding foreign cablegrams. It was a job I hated. My father thought a civil service job would offer decent wages, good working conditions, health benefits, and a chance to retire while fairly young. I passed both the police and firefighter tests and was called at almost the same time as a candidate for both jobs. I chose, after careful consideration, to listen to my father's advice and accept the position of probationary firefighter. I have never looked back. While waiting for my appointment, I was told to report to the local firehouse in my neighborhood. That was South Brooklyn, Engine Company 239 in South Brooklyn. The then fire commission thought it was a good idea for us to first become auxiliary firefighters so we could learn something about fire prevention before being appointed. Along with about 10 other candidates, I reported for a lecture about fire prevention, signing in at the company journal at the firehouse watch desk. About 15 minutes into the lecture, loud bells began to sound. The lights became much brighter. The huge firehouse doors opened to the outside world, and men began sliding down shining brass poles. Like a snap of a finger, the pumper engine roared to life, moving quickly forward to the street as the firefighters dressed in their firefighting gear jumped on board. The huge red machine accelerated quickly, its sirens and bells echoing off the brownstones and tenements of South Brooklyn on their way to its coded destination. The enormous doors of the apparatus floor closed with a boom, and I could still hear all the sounds slowly disappearing towards downtown Brooklyn. All of 30 seconds had passed. I was stunned, impressed, and I knew that's what I wanted to be part of. The benefits of being a New York City firefighter are a 20-year retirement at half pay, unlimited sick leave, and this is 20 years ago, and 26 vacation days when you become a first-grade firefighter after 5 years. The starting salary is approximately $29,000, reaching about $50,000 after 5 years. Dental and medical benefits included, in a word, fairly generous for the hardest working of New York's professionals. But if we consider their contribution towards society, they should be paid more. But you don't become a firefighter just for the money. It's more than that, much, much more. There is a bond that is shared as in no other profession. Split-second decisions, forceful entry into apartments and homes, searching for life, rescuing the injured or unconscious, overhauling the fire area to make sure the fire is out and any extension of the fire is found and extinguished. Conditions at a fire can be brutal, with multiple injuries, people screaming for missing or trapped loved ones. Firefighters returning to their quarters after a fire are often exhausted, but they must prepare for the next alarm. If they haven't suffered any injuries, they must change into dry uniforms, replace defective equipment and depleted air masks, clean their tools. Once their reports are updated, they must notify the dispatcher that they are in service. After an unusual fire or incident, a fresh pot of coffee is made, and the officer of a truck or engine company will have the firefighters critique it. Who did what? Could we have done it safer, faster, better? When you leave the firehouse after a day or night tour, you feel good about yourself. You might have helped save someone on your tour or put out a fire. Over the years, I have seen firefighters approach greatness. with their courage and daring. Firefighting is a team effort. If one firefighter fails to properly do his or her job, injury or death could occur. We depend on each other for our lives while protecting the life and property of the people of the city. When we get new probies in a job, we protect them. We take care of them. We let them get months and even years on a job before we put them in dangerous positions. But at a fire, when I went in the job in 1960, we had no mask. We had a mine mask. So you either had to take a deep breath, learn how to get your lips right off the floor and crawl in, because the equipment wasn't there. We used to use clothesline cord to tie our tools on the rig. Antiquated trucks, and now it's much better, much, much better. But over the years, with the training, you get to depend on one another. You get through situations that never hit the papers. It makes everyone a brother. So why become a firefighter? You will make friends for life. You will appreciate clean, cool water after a hot fire. You will enjoy warm clothing and dry feet. You will have new respect for the sun and clean air. You will make sure your loved ones are loved. You will provide a safer environment for them. You will know that basically all people are wonderful, with the same wants and needs. Society can be sometimes broke down into givers and takers. Firefighters are givers. They protect the lives and property of all people. They have even given their lives. From the fire academy to college courses to lectures, the opportunity is there for anyone to learn the job and advance him or herself by competitive promotional exams. The firefighter uniform, both work and dress, is by far the most respected of all uniform. It has a past, it has a future, and a tradition. It means that firefighters give life. I'm so proud to have worn that uniform. Former New York Governor Mario Cuomo, not Andrew, said it best when he praised New York City firefighters, calling them the most heroic, finest people that ever inhabited New York. There are just no finer tribute, and it's true of firefighters everywhere. And I don't know if you have time for a few questions. If anybody has a question. Yes.
What was the advice your dad gave you when you made your decision to become a firefighter instead of a policeman?
He was a truck driver. He was a union organizer. He was a tough guy. And he thought that, I guess we all like to know that we have some kind of, like Social Security, some kind of pension. Because if you don't have, one of these great programs, money, look at the last couple of years, things were bad. You see people on the streets. So you got to provide for your family. And the depression during the 40s and 50s, or 30s and 40s, I mean, you had men that lost their, women that lost their jobs that were selling apples. And we're such a great country that we got to provide better for the people. And so he always, like my brother Harold, he worked for the controller's office. He was the oldest. My brother Bobby became a police officer. Thomas became a police officer. I became a firefighter. And I have my sister over here. She worked for General Electric. And so there's nothing wrong in trying to get the, I guess I'm looking for the word security, to prepare, to not worry about when you get old and you can't afford medical benefits. And I was just in the hospital for several days. It come to $70,000 and for my breathing, and it shouldn't be that much, and you shouldn't have to sell your house, But I hope I answered your question. First of all, you got to follow your heart. The heart wants what the heart wants, and what you should do is if you're happy at doing something, then it's really not a job. I mean, I worked for over 33 years as a firefighter, and I was in the Navy for a couple of years, and I love going to work. I love the Navy. I loved every day. It was just a great day because it's like a chess game. And you may go out 10 times a night. I was in a truck company in South Brooklyn, and we did over 5,000 runs a year. Some nights you go out 25, 35 times. And you come across a scene, and you got to put the pieces back together. You know, you got car accidents, you got fires, you got people drownings, and at the end of the tour, sometimes you're really exhausted. But the hours are great, and the benefits were great at the time, and so I had two of my sons became firefighters, and I'm glad you asked that question. I have a son that went to Pratt Institute, and he became an architect, and then he was very bright, you know. I'm hoping someday he can come here as a teacher. He's a chess player. He can play 10 people at once, but guess what? He's a firefighter too. He just bought a new house, can't afford it, but he's working 2 jobs. He teaches architecture. He's a professor, and he's a firefighter. You know, for many years, firefighters and cops have been looked down upon. But you go in a fire department, you'll see lawyers, you'll see accountants, you'll see guys that just love being firefighters. Every day you don't know what's going to come, you know. And over the years, what I'm proud to say is that I always emphasize safety. And like I say every day, even this morning, Erin went out, I said, make someone happy and be a giver. Contribution towards society. Like I say, I mentioned earlier I was a volunteer for the Burn Center, and I handle Staten Island and Brooklyn, parts of Brooklyn and downtown Manhattan. We sell calendars, and we raise over $1 million every year. And we not only donate to the Burn Center, we donate to other causes. You've heard of the Tunnel to Towers run, where Stephen Silla just got off duty. He worked with Squad 1, and he heard it on, he got a shortwave radio in the car, and he grabbed his fire gear and he ran through the tunnel, which is 1.7 miles. And now there's a race, and they make millions every year. They just provided homes for 14 veterans who have no arms and legs. I mean, there's a lot of great things going on. And as you go out in the world, there's nothing better to know that someone cares for you, or someone gives you a call, or someone, you know, a friend, you know, could call you up after months and he said, God, he's thinking about me, or she's thinking about me, you know. So I want to end also with these words too. I say, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of Blair Academy. Thank you. I don't know if anybody else had a question.
Any other questions? We have a few little time. Anything you want? Anything?
Well, I'll be around for a little while later if you want to.
No other questions? There's one over here.
I wonder what you think of how the city, the state, and the federal government have taken care of people like yourself who are working down at Ground Zero, who may have become sick or who are dealing with long-term health things. Has the response of the government been sufficient in your mind?
Yeah, I have to say that the New York City Fire Department took care of us. I'm still in the program. I developed, most firefighters do. For 15 years, I never wore a mask. We used to paint ourselves in leather lungs, you know? It was like stupid, you know what I mean? I mean, even then, a mattress fire was bad enough, but I would hyperventilate and just get on my hands and knees and with your lips off the, and you can go, you'd be surprised how long you can stay in there. But then I developed COPD, and then after that, working down at Ground Zero, I developed asthma, and I went on prednisone. I'm on prednisone a long time now, and I found that I had, bone, I lost bone, osteopenia, and it's getting worse because but I'm a voracious eater. Firefighters love to eat. And so I take care of myself, and I run every other day. And close to 2 miles. If I don't feel up to it, I walk, you know. I tell everybody, if you want to write a song, go for a run. If you had a fight with your boyfriend, girlfriend, go for a run. If you got an exam coming up, go for a run. You get that cardiovascular system so developed. Sleep better at night, you eat better, you know. But my main thing is to take care of each other, to help each other, to volunteer. And this school in my neighborhood, it happens to be St. Charles Church. Some of my older children went there, they were baptized there, blah, blah, blah. And there's 700 kids go there, and they have a readathon. Each family donates $10, and they raise $7,000. And that $7,000 goes to the Bird Center. And there's innovations going on now where kids will burn, where they put a camera on their face, and they look at things in the camera, and they forget about the burn. It's just amazing what they discovered. You know, it took the kid's mind off the pain, and there's no way that I can think of to suffer so much than being burned, you know. But anybody else? All right. Thanks for everything.
Just maybe I think we're all quiet because people are pretty moved by what you said.
Oh,
And thank you not only for talking about what happened, because it's kind of like going back again. We all remember the opening day of classes here when it happened. Those of us who were here, it was opening day of school that day, and we lost one parent. But also, it means a lot to hear somebody talk about how you go out and live your life, so thank you.
Finish your question. Do I believe the federal government acted? They could have acted so much better. I mean, I don't care. We just moved up here. I've been here since I'm this old in Columbia, but I couldn't live up here as a firefighter. I had to live in the city or Long Island. So we only moved up here. Erin's been going to school 3 years, and Randy's, we have an A-frame I built many years ago, but we had a house we just sold over a month ago. And I walk down after the storm, and I see, like Breezy Point, I used to hang out there as a young man, and the devastation, and I see where I live. I miss the water by maybe a block, you know? And I'm a runner. I go around 2 or 3 miles around Miller Field. It's a landmark there, and I see telephone poles and trees that come up from the ocean, and 5 feet come down a mile and a half. It's just amazing. And we can't help these people. You go down there, there's still disaster down there. I mean, this is America. We can do better. I don't understand how we can send money overseas, and I'm a Democrat, but we dropped the ball. We got to take care of the people who sacrifice, especially the soldiers. You know, I know what's going on in Staten Island. I'm so proud of that. They're helping a lot of the veterans, you know. But like I say, this is the first time I talked like this in maybe 10 years. But thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for having me.